Welcome to the monthly vinyl voyage. In September 2022, I started an experiment, building a new music collection from scratch at a rate of no more than one album a month. 2 years later, it's formed 24 great albums, and I'm taking a bit of time to look at each of the purchases, to learn more about it, and to reflect on what it means to me, and to digress onto side notes that I find interesting in my research. This is my record of the month from May 2023, album number 7 in my music collection, and it's Michael Jackson's Bad. This was released August 31st, 1987. It was produced by Quincy Jones and released under Epic Records. The album had its 35th anniversary in August 2022. Michael Jackson was a monumental figure in the world of music and entertainment. His career spanned over 45 years, starting as a young prodigy with the Jackson 5, with whom he released 16 albums. As a solo artist, he had an illustrious career of 38 years, producing 10 studio albums. Beyond music, Michael Jackson appeared in feature films and was often in the spotlight for various controversies later in his life. His untimely death in 2009 marked the end of an era, but his legacy continues to influence artists and fans around the world. It's not possible for me to delve into every detail of his life and career, and there are resources out there already which do a great job of that. Today I'm going to focus on the period of his career that resonates most with me, which will bring us to why I've selected this album. And I want to dedicate this month's voyage and say thank you to music titan Quincy Jones, who passed away last month on November the 3rd, aged 91. So what does this album mean to me? The nexus point for this album is 32 years ago, Thursday, July the 30th, 1992. Michael Jackson's Dangerous World Tour did 2 July shows at Wembley Stadium, and in a surprise move, my dad took my sister, who just turned 13, and me, who just turned 11, to the Thursday night show as a birthday present. At the age of 11, I was desperate to be cool, but lacked the means to make that happen. My dad, who I'm sure had no intention of helping me be cool, somehow managed to arrange for us to attend the coolest event imaginable. However, within a month allegations surfaced, and even as an 11-year-old boy in the pre-internet age, I knew that Michael Jackson was no longer being celebrated. It would be years before attending that concert would be considered cool again. You could spend a literal lifetime discussing the Jacksons' history, so instead I'm going to start with one of the shortest biographies I've read, from the Encyclopedia Britannica. Michael Jackson was an American singer, songwriter and dancer who revolutionised pop music with his mesmerising performances, groundbreaking videos and timeless hits that continue to captivate audiences worldwide. Born August 29th, 1958 in Gary, Indiana, Jackson began his career as the lead singer of the Jackson 5. He later achieved unprecedented solo success with albums like Off the Wall, Thriller and Bad. Jackson's influence on music, dance and fashion made him a global icon, earning him the title King of Pop. He passed away on June 25th, 2009, but his legacy endures. One fascinating aspect of Michael Jackson's career that surprised me in my research was his ability to balance his solo endeavours with his commitments to the Jacksons. I assumed that he'd left the group in the early 70s, but that's not the case. From 1972 to 75, Michael released solo albums like Got to Be There, Ben, Music and Me and Forever Michael. But despite his solo success, he remained an integral part of the Jackson 5, and the group continued to thrive during this period. In 1975, the Jacksons left Motown and signed with Epic Records, rebranding themselves as the Jacksons. This move marked a new chapter, giving them more creative control over their music. Michael's contributions were pivotal, especially on albums like Destiny in 1978 and Triumph in 1980. Songs like Blame It on the Boogie and Shake Your Body became major hits, showcasing Michael's growing influence as a songwriter and performer. Even as Michael's solo career began to take off with the release of Off the Wall in 1979, he didn't step away from the Jacksons. This period set the stage for his groundbreaking collaboration with Quincy Jones. Quincy Delight Jones's journey to becoming one of the most influential music producers of all time is a story of talent, versatility, and relentless dedication. Born in Chicago in 1933, Quincy was immersed in music from a young age. He was mentored by the jazz piano legend Count Basie, who adopted him at the age of 13. As a teenager, he worked with musical giants like Duke Ellington and Ray Charles. Quincy started playing trumpet with the big band leader Lionel Hampton in 1951, at just 18 years old. His early career was marked by a deep immersion in the world of jazz, where he honed his skills and developed a unique musical vision. In the late 1950s, Quincy moved to Paris, where he lived across the street from Picasso and studied classical composition with Nadia Boulanger, a renowned teacher of some of the world's most famous composers and performers of the 20th century. This period broadened his musical horizons and deepened his understanding of composition and arrangement. As an arranger, Quincy was behind some of the most iconic hits of the 1960s, including Dinah Washington's Mad About the Boy, Frank Sinatra's Fly Me to the Moon, and soul bossa nova, which you probably know as the Austin Powers theme. His ability to blend different musical styles into a cohesive sound made him a sought-after arranger and producer. In 1964, Quincy broke new ground, becoming one of the first African-American executives of a major US record label, serving as vice president of Mercury Records at just 28 years old. Quincy met Michael Jackson on the set of the 1978 film The Wiz. Weird film. At 20 years old, Michael was looking to transition from his image of a child star to a mature solo artist. He wanted to be taken seriously as an adult performer and to create music that would appeal to a broader, more mature audience, and he asked Quincy Jones to produce his next album. Quincy Jones producing for Michael Jackson brings us to a 3-album arc of Off the Wall, Thriller and Bad, which were all released under Epic Records. To me, these represent the pinnacle of Michael Jackson's career. They also changed the music industry and by extension the world. But first, let's talk about the albums. Released on August 10th, 1979, Off the Wall marked Michael Jackson's transition from child star to an adult artist. The album blends disco, funk, pop and R&B into a vibrant and exciting collection of songs. Quincy Jones played a crucial role in shaping the album's sound. His expertise in arranging and producing helped to bring Jackson's vocal sketches to life, creating the polished and innovative sound that defines the album. Their collaboration was a perfect blend of Jackson's creativity and Jones's technical skill. Commercially, the album was a massive success. It was the first solo album to generate 4 top 10 hits. It sold over 20 million copies worldwide and was certified 8 times platinum. It also won a Grammy for Best Male R&B Vocal Performance, although Jackson bitterly felt it deserved Album of the Year. One of the most fascinating aspects of Off the Wall is Michael Jackson's unique method of creating music. Despite his limitations in reading, writing or playing, Jackson used his exceptional vocal abilities to convey his musical ideas. He would record parts for different instruments using a tape recorder, singing the sounds he envisioned. In the studio, he would play these recordings for musicians and producers, directing them to replicate the sounds, ensuring the final product matched his vision. In contrast, Prince, a rival musical genius of the era, had an amazing voice and could play just about any instrument, believing he could do so better than anyone. Prince's debut album, For You, showcases his extraordinary talent as he played all 27 instruments on the record. This ability gave Prince complete creative control over his music, allowing him to seamlessly switch between different instruments and genres, creating a sound that was unique and his own. While Prince's self-reliance and multi-instrumental prowess are impressive, Jackson's approach highlighted his exceptional vocal talent and his understanding of the importance of collaboration. Off the Wall had a significant cultural impact. It's seen as the bridge between the music of the 70s and the 80s, influencing the pop and electronic sounds of the later decade. The album cover, featuring Jackson in a tuxedo with white socks, has become iconic, and the music video for tracks like Don't Stop Till You Get Enough and Rock With You left a lasting visual impact. These songs were the standout tracks, maintaining high energy and excitement throughout the album. It's been suggested that the high contrast socks were Michael Jackson's suggestion to let the audience better see his footwork during his dancing. Released 3 years after Off the Wall, November 30th, 1982, we're now in my lifetime, Thriller is not just an album, it's a cultural phenomenon that redefined the music industry. The success of Off the Wall, combined with what Michael Jackson felt was being somewhat overlooked by the Grammy Committee, seems to have galvanised Jackson and Jones into a common mission for their next album, aiming to simply make the greatest selling album of all time. Jones aimed to cover multiple genres to appeal to a broad audience, ensuring that there is something for everyone. Thriller blends pop, post-disco, rock and funk into a diverse and groundbreaking collection of songs. The production process involved sifting through around 300 demos to select the final tracks. Jones worked closely with Michael Jackson again, leveraging his vocal talents and creative ideas. Jackson would record his musical ideas vocally, and Jones would help translate these into fully realised tracks. Michael Jackson's meticulous approach to production involved recording multiple takes and ensuring the mix sounded perfect on both high-end and low-end speakers. The album was mixed 91 times before settling on the second mix they'd attempted. Thriller also featured notable collaborations. Eddie Van Halen played the iconic guitar solo on Beat It for free, initially not wanting credit. Paul McCartney featured on The Girl Is Mine, the first single released from the album. These collaborations added to the album's diverse sound and broad appeal. Thriller was a monumental success, selling over 40 million copies in its initial chart run, achieving its stated aim of becoming the best-selling album of all time, with sales between 66 and 100 million copies worldwide. 7 of its 9 tracks reached the top 10, and the album stayed on the chart for nearly 2 years, continually releasing singles. One of the key factors in Thriller's success was its groundbreaking music videos. The videos for Thriller and Billie Jean were revolutionary, significantly boosting the album's popularity. The Thriller video, directed by John Landis, is considered the most famous music video of all time, and it helped legitimise the format as an art form. One of the forces expanding the role of the music video was MTV. MTV had launched a year before Thriller in 1981, and it primarily featured rock music and gave little airtime to videos by black artists. This had led to public criticism from artists like Rick James and David Bowie. Billie Jean was a turning point. Initially, MTV was reluctant to air the video, but after pressure from CBS, they eventually agreed to play it. And it was the success of Billie Jean on MTV that helped to break down some racial barriers and paved the way for more black artists to be featured on the network. The success of the Billie Jean video generated more ambition. The production costs for the Thriller music video were around $900,000, which was unprecedented for a music video in 1983. This high budget was due to the elaborate costumes and special effects that were involved, and the director John Landis, who was known for his work on films like An American Werewolf in London. To cover the costs, Michael Jackson's team came up with some creative funding strategies. They produced a documentary called The Making of Thriller, which was sold to MTV and Showtime. This innovative approach not only helped finance the music video, but also set a precedent for future music video productions. Thriller set new standards for music productions, marketing and video production. Its success influenced the music industry and popular culture, making Michael Jackson a global icon. It showcases Michael Jackson's evolution as an artist, and it highlights the innovative production techniques of Quincy Jones. Together, they created a timeless piece of music that continues to influence artists and captivate audiences around the world. Which brings us to Bad. Following the monumental success of Thriller, the best-selling album of all time, Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones were faced with unprecedented pressure. The world was watching, and the expectations were sky high. How do you top an album that redefined the music industry and set new standards for what a pop album could achieve? Bad was seen as the sequel to Thriller, but Jackson and Jones aimed to make it bigger, bolder, and different in many ways. They didn't want to simply replicate Thriller. They wanted to create something that stood on its own. The recording process for Bad began in January 1985 and continued until July 1987, spanning over 2.5 years. During this time, Jackson and Jones worked tirelessly, recording dozens of songs. In fact, they recorded over 60 songs, but only 11 made it into the final album. The album showcased Jackson's versatility and again Quincy Jones's skill, blending pop, rock, funk, R&B, dance, soul and hard rock. Despite the rigorous selection process, not all of the tracks on Bad were universally acclaimed. 2 songs in particular, Speed Demon and Just Good Friends, often left fans and critics puzzled about their inclusion. Speed Demon is inspired by a speeding ticket Michael Jackson received and was generally not well received. Critics describe it as overly produced and dated, with a chorus that failed to capture the catchiness of Jackson's other hits. It was supposed to be a single, but it was ultimately cancelled due to its lacklustre reception. Just Good Friends, a duet with Stevie Wonder, also faced criticism. Despite the star power of both artists, the song was seen as a misstep. Even Quincy Jones later admitted that he didn't meet the high expectations. Fans and critics alike felt that the track lacked chemistry and impact expected from such a high-profile collaboration. Bad was a commercial success, selling 35 million copies worldwide and producing multiple hit singles. The album's success demonstrated Jackson's ability to meet high expectations and continue his dominance in the music industry. Bad featured 9 singles and 1 promotional single, with hits like Bad, The Way You Make Me Feel, Smooth Criminal and Man in the Mirror. Interestingly, several high-profile artists, including Prince, turned down invitations to collaborate on the album. In the end, Bad proved that Michael Jackson could rise to the challenge and create another iconic album, solidifying his place as the king of pop. So why Bad? Why not Thriller or Off the Wall? Well, Off the Wall is too disco for me. It just lands before my time. Thriller is a good album, Billie Jean being the standout track for me over Beat It. but I cannot listen to the title track again, and I bet I'm not alone. For a month before Halloween each year, it's played cringe-inducingly often. And with vinyl, there's no skip track. I do have a Spotify playlist for Thriller that doesn't include Thriller. I mean, Bad is a great album on its own. Man in the Mirror would be enough, but the star is Smooth Criminal, a track I don't think I could ever hear too many times. So how do you follow up two of the most successful albums of all time? The recording process for Dangerous began in 1989 and continued until October 1991. The album features a blend of new jack, swing, R&B, pop and rock, showcasing Jackson's versatility and willingness to push musical boundaries. With hits like Black and White, Remember the Time and Heal the World, Dangerous was another commercial success, selling over 32 million copies. As Jackson began to conceptualise the Dangerous album, he knew it was time for a change, and he decided to part ways with Quincy Jones. Jackson was keen on taking more control over his music and experimenting with new genres, particularly wanting to incorporate elements of New Jack Swing, a genre that was gaining popularity at the time. This led him to work with Teddy Riley, who is often credited with pioneering the genre and had co-produced Dangerous with Michael. New Jack Swing, also known as swing beat, is a fusion genre that emerged in the mid-1980s and became highly popular in the late 1980s and early 1990s. It combines rhythms and production techniques of hip-hop and dance pop with the urban and contemporary sound of R&B. This genre brought a fresh, energetic vibe to the music scene and played a significant role in the evolution of R&B and hip-hop. Key elements of the New Jack Swing include syncopated swung rhythms, often created using electronic drum machines, and polished, high-energy sound achieved through sampling and synthesizers. The genre features smooth, soulful vocals combined with rap verses, blending singing and rapping in innovative ways. The problem is that while New Jack Swing tracks like The Jam and Remember the Time were innovative at the time, as a genre it hasn't aged well. The heavy use of synthesizers and drum machines, once cutting edge, now sound dated compared to modern music that they ironically inspired. I think it was probably the right creative decision at the time, but the albums that Quincy Jones produced have proven themselves to weather the sands of time and changing tastes much more effectively than any of Michael's other albums. One of the strange things that I remember about Michael Jackson growing up was that he was constantly on TV in Pepsi adverts, and in a way that no one else was. Michael Jackson's partnership with Pepsi began in 1983 with a $5 million deal, the largest celebrity endorsement at the time. Pepsi aimed to capture the youth market and challenge Coca-Cola's dominance. Their high-production commercials featuring Jackson's music and dance moves became cultural events. In 1984, a pyrotechnics accident during a Pepsi commercial caused Jackson's hair to catch fire, but he continued the partnership and Pepsi supported his recovery. Pepsi also sponsored Jackson's Victory Tour in 1984 and his Bad World Tour in 1988, further solidifying their association. Pepsi's bold move to partner with Jackson was driven by their desire to revolutionise advertising and connect with younger audiences. Few other companies attempted such high-profile endorsements at the time, making Pepsi's strategy unique and groundbreaking. The Dangerous World Tour was one of Michael Jackson's most ambitious and challenging undertakings. Beginning in June 1992 and spanning over a year, the tour included 69 concerts across Europe, Asia and Latin America, reaching millions of fans. However, it was also marked by significant challenges and ultimately an abrupt end. The tour kicked off in Munich, Germany, with a series of sold-out shows that set the tone for the rest of the tour. Jackson performed to massive crowds, showcasing his incredible stage presence and elaborate choreography. The concerts were a testament to his immense popularity, and there were high expectations surrounding the tour. Which brings us to my nexus point. Thursday, July the 30th, 1992, Wembley Stadium. Having said I don't rate Dangerous as an album because the New Jack Swing hasn't aged well, it was cool and cutting edge at the time, and the fact that the set list from the Wembley concert included Smooth Criminal, Thriller, Billie Jean, Beat It, Black or White and Man in the Mirror. My dad bought me a massively too big tour t-shirt which was like a dress on me, and I wore it everywhere, although I can't find any pictures of me in it, which suggests I might not have looked quite as cool as I felt wearing it. I wish I still had that t-shirt, but it's been lost. Quite possibly and sadly in the years that it wasn't cool. In November 1993, Jackson announced his cancellation of the Dangerous World Tour to seek treatment for an addiction to painkillers, which he developed due to the stress and physical demands of the tour. This also marked a significant turning point in Jackson's career. Although Jackson continued to record and release music, his behaviour increasingly made headlines more than his new work. In 1995 he released the History, Past, Present and Future Book 1 album and embarked on the History World Tour. In 2001 he released the Invincible album. Tragically, in 2009 Jackson passed away while preparing for the This Is It comeback tour. Despite the controversies and challenges, Jackson's old music was always waiting for a chance to re-emerge from the shadows he cast. His legacy as the king of pop endures, with his classic hits continuing to captivate a new generation of fans. The Bad album started life actually called Smooth Criminal, but was renamed after the Bad track. I have a second-hand copy. This is the UK rather than the Europe stereo gatefold, which was released 1st of September 1987. The album cover is by Sam Emerson, who was personally chosen by Michael. Sam Emerson stayed on as photographer during most of the Bad era, as well as on both the Bad and Dangerous tours. The initial photograph chosen for the cover of Bad was inspired by a 1924 portrait of actress Gloria Swanson by famed photographer Edward Steichen. The photo was immediately rejected by the CEO Walter Yetnikoff, who suggested something with a more urban feel. The replacement is a more conventional album cover, using the same wardrobe used for the Bad music video. Awards and accolades for Bad. For the Grammy Awards, it nominated for 6 Grammy Awards, including Album of the Year. It won Best Engineered and Best Music Video for Leave Me Alone. For the MTV Music Video Awards, we have Best Overall Performance in a Video for Bad and Best Choreography in a Video for Bad. Brit Awards, Best International Solo Artist, certified 11 times platinum in the US, sold over 35 million copies worldwide, best-selling album globally of both 1987 and 1988. So what's to love? I think it's a great album. It continues to age well. Personally, I think Smooth Criminal is a masterpiece. What's missing? I wish there was a version that had Billie Jean in place of Speed Demon. That would be such a good album. Well, I hope I've convinced you that the combination of Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones was a winner. I mean, I kind of hope you love Thriller, but if, like me, you can't bear to hear Vincent Price's spooky narration ever again, there's still this album to be enjoyed. I'm sure I've made mistakes in my research and presentation. We're only human. But thank you for listening.